Well, Eric, we're nearly there. Believe it or not, it's been 8 years since this building came into the ownership of the Historical Society. It's been 4 years since we decided to open up the West Wing.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, coming up November, it'll be 2 years since we were successful with the Lotteries grant.
Yeah.
What did you think initially when you began this project?
Well, initially I thought, oh, if I come to live in this area, that'd be a lovely project to get my hands on. And
Yes, and this was back when?
well, we moved here from other part of the country in 2018, travelling through the village, and we happened to stop at the museum, started talking to Doug Simpson, and he knew that found out I was a builder, so he kindly invited me into this building. Yeah, well, as you remember, it looked pretty dilapidated, and he said, oh, it's pretty risky even coming in. Yeah, so we moved here, and then we joined the Ongonga Historical Society, and one of the meetings it was suggested that this building should be open with the rest of the museum. And so I thought, well, we might have to get cracking and to do some, you know, even temporary repairs just to make it safe so people could actually come through here.
And just going back to that, sorry, I think there was a very key decision to open the West Wing side of the Coles, because it put a focus on the building for us to begin.
That's right.
Thinking about restoring.
Initially, we did a lot of clearing up and re-levelling, things that don't actually cost a lot of money other than labour.
Yes.
Once the building was re-levelled, it started coming alive, and well, really, and that was the beginning of enthusiasm, coupled to the fact that we had the market, the markets, and, you know, the spring fling, and that sort of put us in a position to apply for a lottery grant funding, which we got, and from there on we were able to invest in materials and labour, and you know, to start the main restoration of the building to the stage where we are at now, which is exciting because we're putting back displays, we're getting the machinery running, and you know, and we've got the sign writing done on the front of the building. It's all sort of coming to fruition. Where all the subfloor is basically modern materials, and you know, treated pine and all done to code. So that's not a problem. But basically, it's pretty solid now with the aid of all the recycled hard matte iron stuff we've been able to.
That's been tremendous that we've been able to source that from the AMP building, the Naruru stables.
Because the building now is in a state where it's pretty solid, and we can feel confident of letting the public through here.
Yes, the spinning belts, whilst the public will be able to see them, they'll be well clear, and it'll be well roped off on the days that we want to give demos.
That's right.
Hopefully the Friday volunteers have been able to help and keep your enthusiasm up along the way. And I think it's been a great team effort in the end.
No, it has really been, and the enthusiasm from the volunteers has been really been great. And
you know, 2 years from the time we got the Lotteries grant, coming up in November, that's a pretty good effort, because in those 2 years we've been faced with COVID.
That's right.
And it's been a stop-start affair. But
we've still got the little plumbing building, which we're now concentrating on. So that's the next thing which we want to get completed. There are several areas outside, particularly, which we still want to tackle, exposing the railway track out the back.
That's right.
And things like that.
Yeah. So there's still things to look forward to. A little bit to do, but really we're over the hump and well down the other side now. Henry Hamilton Bridge, also known to his close friends as Harry and widely known as HH. Bridge came to New Zealand via Melbourne in 1864 as a young 20-year-old. And following the death of run holder William Fannin in 1865, Henry purchased the Fannin property on the Ruataniwa Plains and named it Fairfield. In 1872, Bridge had a village of 78 sections laid out at the crossing point of the Onga Onga stream. Bridge was a very public-spirited man. He had a public meeting room built, which in 1875 became the first school. He provided land and finance for the Church of the Good Shepherd, and also provided land for the Bridge Park Domain. The new school in Mill Street was also financed by Henry. Now that Bridge had a village planned, he needed a competent builder. Enter Edward Coles. Edward Perkins Coles had been recommended by Bridge's father, who was a rector in Droxford, England. Coles had been a boat builder after apprenticing as a joiner. Coles eventually received a letter from Bridge. It was a chance for a better life and a new place to call home. And so, on the 4th of May 1877, Edward and Clara Coles, with their 12 children, set sail for Auckland, New Zealand. It was to be an arduous 103-day journey, experiencing all sorts of weather, from beautiful days and starlit nights to gale-force winds and tremendously high seas, snowstorms and hailstorms. Clara experienced all these conditions while pregnant with her 13th child. However, they arrived safely in Auckland on Wednesday, August the 15th, 1877, and on Monday, August the 20th, they boarded the steamer, the Southern Cross, bound for Napier, arriving in Napier August 23rd, 1877. Edward began working for H.H. Bridge. His first job was building a house and a wool shed. In the heyday, the firm provided services from the ground up. These included surveying, joinery, hardware, paint and wallpapering, glazing and plumbing. They also ran an undertaking business. The business peaked prior to the First World War. This was a period of rural prosperity brought about by the opening of the frozen meat trade with Britain. This led to a rising demand as new settlers moved into the district, also resulting in rapid growth in the Onga Onga township as it expanded to serve the needs of the growing farming community. Thus the Coles brothers expanded to serve the growing demand. The business declined during the years of the 1914-18 war, with 25 local men never returned from that conflict. This left a terrible void within the district which could never be filled. The 1920s and early 1930s were scarred by economic hard times. There was a recovery in the late 30s, only to be reversed with the outbreak of the Second World War. The Coles brothers were still alive in the district, but on a smaller scale. The second generation of the family, the sons of Edward Perkins and Clara, were themselves advancing in years, and the third generation was moving off to other pastures. Finally, by the 1950s, Frank Coles was the only remaining family member in the business, and the enterprise was but a shadow of what it had been. Finally, after Frank's son Mark had a short stint, the doors were finally closed for the last time in the early 1960s. The old building remained deserted until 1983, when the Onga Onga Historical Society began to take an interest in its preservation. In 1984, the old factory was purchased by Richard Quinn of Wellington. It was then leased to Greg Freighter and Alistair Nugent to operate it as a joinery business. The building was later purchased outright by Greg and Anne Freighter. In 2014, the factory was acquired by the Society for $1 from the Freighters. Labour Weekend 2018, the west side of the building was opened with Doug Simpson, who had worked for the Coles brothers, cutting the ribbon. Over 200 people took time to meander through this iconic building on that day. And so after many working bees, demolishing old buildings, sourcing native timber, Eric's passion for restoration of old buildings was a real bonus for the Society. Electrician Brian Connor, along with the Friday Volunteers Group, have all contributed immensely to the completion of this building. End of story.